For years, Evelyn Hart believed she was living a normal life. To the outside world, she was the wife of a successful man with a beautiful home and a comfortable lifestyle. People saw the carefully arranged photographs, the expensive clothes, and the confident smile she wore at public events. They never saw the fear hidden behind those moments. Behind closed doors, Evelyn's life had slowly become a prison. Her husband, Marcus Vale, was a man who valued control more than love. Every decision, every movement, and every relationship in her life had been carefully influenced by him. Over time, she learned to hide her emotions, silence her doubts, and survived each day without attracting his anger. The hardest part was not the loneliness. It was a realization that the person who promised to protect her had become the person she needed protection from. Evelyn did not leave because of a simple disagreement or a temporary moment of frustration. She left because she finally understood that staying meant losing herself completely. After years of carrying fear in silence, she made the most dangerous decision of her life. She disappeared. With only a small bag and a hidden determination to start again, Evelyn boarded a late-night train heading away from everything she had ever known. The journey represented more than distance. It represented a chance to become someone beyond the identity her husband had created for her. As the train moved through empty landscapes and quiet towns, Evelyn watched the world outside the window change. For the first time in years, she felt a small sense of freedom. But beneath that feeling was a strange uneasiness she could not explain. She did not know that her escape had created a chain of events far beyond her imagination. Marcus Vale was not just a wealthy businessman hiding personal secrets. His connections reached into a world where loyalty was bought, betrayal was punished, and information was more valuable than money. Evelyn had unknowingly carried something away from that world, something powerful enough to put her life in danger. The truth was hidden inside the details she had ignored for years. The unusual phone calls, the unexplained meetings, and the people who always seemed to disappear whenever she asked questions. She had spent so long trying to survive her marriage that she never realized she was standing beside a much larger threat. The woman who thought she was running away from one man was actually running from an entire world. As the train moved deeper into the darkness, Evelyn closed her eyes and tried to believe that the nightmare was finally behind her, unaware that someone from her past was already tracking her every move. She escaped from a man who controlled her life, only to find herself surrounded by people who controlled an entire city. Evelyn Hart believed the hardest part of her journey was already behind her. Leaving Marcus Vale's house, walking away from the life he had built around control and fear, had taken every ounce of courage she had. But as the train moved farther away from her past, she began to realize that escaping one danger did not mean she had found safety. The first sign came when she noticed a man sitting across from her. He was calm, observant, and unlike any passenger around him. While others focused on their phones or looked out the windows, his attention remained fixed on the smallest details. He noticed things most people ignored: the way Evelyn held her bag tightly, the nervous movements of her hands, and the constant fear she tried to hide. His name was Adrian Cross, a man whose presence carried a quiet authority. He was not searching for attention, and he did not need to demand respect. People naturally moved aside when he entered a room because they understood the power behind his name. Evelyn did not know it yet, but Adrian belonged to a world far removed from ordinary life. He was connected to one of the most influential Mafia families in the country, an organization built on loyalty, reputation, and fear. Their power stretched beyond illegal businesses and hidden operations. They controlled information, relationships, and decisions that could change people's lives in an instant. The dangerous part was not their strength. The dangerous part was that Evelyn had become important to them. After years of betrayal, trusting anyone felt impossible. Her own husband had spent years hiding the truth from her, so the idea of believing a stranger seemed almost foolish. She wondered if Adrian was another person trying to control her, or if he was the first person who actually understood the danger she was facing. The truth was complicated. Adrian had not found her by accident. He knew Marcus Vale's name. He knew about the secrets surrounding Evelyn's escape. And most importantly, he knew that Marcus had been searching for something that Evelyn unknowingly possessed. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets are not the ones people hide. They are the ones innocent people carry, without knowing their value. Evelyn wanted freedom more than anything, But freedom came with a price. Without protection, she was vulnerable to the powerful people chasing her. With protection, she risked becoming trapped inside another world where loyalty came with conditions. The train continued moving through the night, carrying Evelyn toward a future she never expected. The woman who wanted to disappear had unknowingly stepped into a conflict between powerful enemies, where every decision could determine whether she survived or became another forgotten victim. She thought she had met a stranger on a train, but the truth was far more dangerous. Adrian Cross knew a secret about her that could change everything. She spent years believing she had married a successful man. She never imagined she had married someone connected to a world built on fear and betrayal. The train continued its journey through the night, but Evelyn Hart's mind remained trapped in the memories she had spent years trying to ignore. The more distance she created between herself and Marcus Vale, the more questions began to surface. The perfect life she once believed she had built started to look like a carefully designed illusion. Marcus had never been the man he appeared to be. To everyone outside their home, he was intelligent, respected, and successful. He was the type of man people admired, without knowing what existed behind the polished image. But Evelyn slowly discovered that his success was not built only on business decisions and hard work. It was connected to powerful people who operated in the shadows. For years, Marcus controlled the information around him. He carefully separated Evelyn from certain friends, avoided discussing his past, and always had explanations ready whenever something seemed unusual. She believed his secrecy was part of his personality. She never imagined it was protection for a dangerous truth. The reality was that Marcus Vale had been connected to criminal networks with influence far beyond what Evelyn could understand. His business empire was only the visible part of something much larger. Behind closed doors existed alliances, rivalries, and agreements that depended on silence. Evelyn's entire marriage had been built on information she was never allowed to know. The most painful realization was not discovering that Marcus had enemies. It was understanding that he had spent years making her feel safe, while secretly placing her in the middle of a world filled with danger. The greatest betrayal was not the lie itself. It was the fact that he convinced her the lie was love. As pieces of the truth came together, Evelyn felt a mixture of anger, fear, and disbelief. She remembered every moment when she questioned his behavior, every time she felt something was wrong, and every time she convinced herself that she was overthinking. Her instincts had been warning her all along. Now those ignored warnings had become the reason she was running for her life. Adrian Cross had not been protecting her from a simple angry husband. He had been protecting her from the consequences of Marcus's hidden world. The secret Evelyn carried was not valuable because of money or power. It was valuable because it could expose people who had spent years building their influence through fear. Suddenly, her escape looked different. She was not just a woman leaving a painful marriage. She was a person who had accidentally walked away with information that powerful enemies wanted destroyed. Every unanswered question from her past now had a dangerous explanation. Every strange moment had a hidden meaning, and every person searching for her had a reason. When Evelyn finally understood the truth about Marcus Vale, she realized she had not escaped a marriage. She had escaped a battlefield. For years, the world admired Marcus Vale as a powerful businessman who had built an empire through intelligence and determination. His confidence, reputation, and influence made people believe he was untouchable. But Evelyn Hart had discovered the truth that existed behind the carefully created image. The man everyone respected was the same man who had slowly taken control of every part of her life. Marcus did not need walls to imprison someone. He used trust, fear, and manipulation. Evelyn finally understood that the small decisions she thought were her own had been influenced by him for years. The people she stopped seeing, the places she avoided, and the questions she stopped asking were all a result of his careful control. He had created a world where she depended on him while making her believe she was protected. The most dangerous kind of control is the one people mistake for care. Marcus knew how to appear like the perfect husband when others were watching. He knew when to smile, when to apologize, and when to act like he was protecting Evelyn from the outside world. But behind that image was a man who feared losing control more than he feared hurting the person closest to him. As Evelyn uncovered more details about his past, she discovered that Marcus was not simply connected to powerful criminals. He was involved in a conflict between rival groups fighting for influence, territory, and control. His decisions had created enemies who were willing to destroy everything connected to him, including Evelyn. The shocking truth was that Marcus had never seen her as someone separate from his world. She was part of his plans, part of his secrets, and part of protection he tried to build around himself. Her escape was not just a personal betrayal in his eyes. It was a threat to everything he had spent years creating. But something inside Evelyn had changed. The woman who once stayed silent because she was afraid of consequences was beginning to understand her own strength. Every secret she discovered gave her more clarity. Every betrayal gave her another reason to stop running. She was no longer trying to return to the life she lost. She was trying to survive the life she finally understood. Adrian Cross and his allies realized that Evelyn was not just a frightened woman caught in a dangerous situation. She was someone who held pieces of information that could expose Marcus and the people connected to him. Her knowledge had become a weapon, and everyone involved wanted control over it. The conflict was no longer about finding Evelyn. It was about deciding who would reach her first. As enemies moved closer and alliances began shifting, Evelyn prepared herself for a battle she never expected to fight. The woman who once believed she had no power was now holding the one secret capable of changing the entire war. The moment Evelyn Hart accepted Adrian Cross's protection, she entered a world she had spent her entire life avoiding. The same people she once believed were nothing more than criminals, and threats were now the only barrier between her and those determined to silence her forever. It was a reality she struggled to accept. Evelyn had spent years believing that powerful men only brought pain. Marcus Vale had taught her that trust could become a weakness, and promises could hide dangerous intentions. So when Adrian offered safety, her first instinct was not gratitude. It was suspicion. Adrian was not like Marcus. He did not try to control every decision Evelyn made. He understood that trust was not something demanded. It was something earned. As a leader of one of the most feared mafia organizations in the city, Adrian carried influence that could frighten anyone around him. But behind his reputation was a strict code that valued loyalty, protection, and keeping promises. His world was built on dangerous rules, but those rules were often clearer than the lies Evelyn had lived with before. The difference between her old life and her new reality became impossible to ignore. With Marcus, she had been protected only when it benefited him. With Adrian, she was protected because her survival had become a responsibility he refused to abandon. However, Evelyn knew better than anyone that safety in a dangerous world always came with uncertainty. She watched carefully. She studied every person around her. She searched for hidden motives because she had learned that the biggest betrayals often came from those closest to you. Slowly, she began adapting to the world she had been forced into. She learned how to recognize danger before it arrived, how to read people's intentions, and how to stop appearing powerless. The frightened woman who had boarded a train hoping to disappear was becoming someone who could stand against the forces chasing her. But confidence did not erase fear. Evelyn still questioned whether she had chosen the right side. The Mafia had protected her, but they were still part of a world filled with violence, secrets, and enemies. She wondered if she had escaped one cage only to enter another. The answer depended on one thing: trust. Meanwhile, the people hunting her were getting closer. Marcus Vale was using every connection available to find her, and his allies were becoming more desperate with every passing day. They knew Evelyn was no longer alone, and they understood that reaching her would require a different strategy. Adrian knew the danger was growing, but he also knew Evelyn was changing. She was no longer someone waiting to be rescued. She was becoming someone capable of fighting for herself. For the first time in years, Evelyn was not running away from her problems. She was preparing to face them. But just as she began believing she had finally found a place where she could breathe, a hidden betrayal inside the Mafia revealed that even the people protecting her might not be telling her the full truth. The woman who once spent every moment trying to escape danger slowly became the person willing to confront it. Evelyn Hart had entered the Mafia world believing she was only trying to survive. But somewhere along the way, survival had transformed into something more powerful. It had become a fight for freedom. For years, fear had controlled her choices. Marcus Vale had convinced her that she was fragile, that she needed him, and that the outside world was too dangerous without his protection. But after discovering his lies and facing enemies who wanted her silenced, Evelyn finally understood something important. The person who controls your fear controls your life. She refused to give anyone that power again. Instead of hiding behind Adrian Cross and his organization, Evelyn began using the knowledge she carried as a weapon. She studied the secrets surrounding Marcus, the alliances he created, and the weaknesses hidden inside his empire. Information that once made her a target became the very thing that gave her strength. Her greatest advantage was not money, influence, or power. It was the fact that people underestimated her. The same woman they believed was only a victim was now the person capable of exposing years of deception. Evelyn learned to think strategically, to question everything, and to understand the dangerous world she had been pulled into. Adrian noticed the transformation immediately. He had protected countless people throughout his life, but Evelyn was different. She did not want someone else to fight her battles forever. She wanted the ability to stand on her own. That determination changed the way people around her saw her. She was no longer just the woman Marcus Vale was searching for. She had become someone his enemies feared. As tensions between rival Mafia groups increased, Evelyn became a key figure in the conflict. Her knowledge of Marcus's operations gave Adrian's organization an advantage, but it also placed a bigger target on her back. Every decision carried consequences. Every secret had a price, and every person around her had a hidden motive. Evelyn understood that revenge alone would not give her peace. Destroying Marcus was not enough. She wanted the truth exposed. She wanted her stolen identity back. She wanted to prove that the years she spent trapped under someone else's control had not broken her. The woman who once questioned her own strength was now making decisions that could change the future of powerful people. But becoming stronger did not mean becoming fearless. Evelyn still carried the pain of betrayal. She still remembered the years she lost and the person she had to become to survive. The difference was that fear no longer controlled her. She controlled it. As the final pieces of Marcus Vale's hidden empire began coming together, Evelyn discovered that the conflict was deeper than she ever imagined. The truth she was searching for was connected to a name from the past, a name that had the power to change everything she believed about her journey. Evelyn Hart had spent months learning how to identify enemies. She understood the danger of powerful men, hidden organizations, and people who use fear as a weapon. She had survived threats from every direction, but she never expected the greatest danger to come from someone she believed was standing beside her. The hardest betrayals are not the ones that come from strangers. They are the ones that come from the people who make you feel safe. As the conflict between Adrian Cross's organization and Marcus Vale's allies reached its breaking point, Evelyn discovered that every side had been protecting pieces of the truth. The war was not only about power or territory. It was about secrets that had been buried for years, secrets that connected Marcus, the Mafia families, and Evelyn's own past. The final information she uncovered changed everything. Adrian had not told her the complete truth about how he found her. He had protected her, helped her, and given her a chance to fight back. But he had also hidden the reason she was truly valuable to his organization. For the first time since meeting him, Evelyn questioned whether she had been rescued or carefully placed into another plan. The realization hurt more than she expected. After Marcus's betrayal, she had promised herself that she would never again trust someone blindly. Yet somewhere along the way, she had allowed herself to believe that Adrian was different. Discovering his hidden intentions forced her to face the one fear she had tried to ignore. What if every person in her life had only wanted something from her? Meanwhile, Marcus Vale prepared his final move. Cornered and desperate, he revealed information that threatened to destroy everyone involved. His goal was no longer just to recover what Evelyn knew. He wanted to erase every person who could expose him. The conflict that started with one woman escaping her marriage had become a war between powerful forces fighting for control. But Evelyn was no longer the same person who boarded that train. She understood the players. She understood their weaknesses. And most importantly, she understood her own value. Instead of choosing between Marcus and Adrian, Evelyn made a decision that surprised everyone. She would no longer allow powerful men to decide her future. She would use the truth for her own purpose and end the cycle of manipulation that had controlled her life. The final confrontation brought every hidden secret into the open. Old alliances collapsed. Long-standing loyalties were tested. People who claimed to protect others revealed their real motivations. Evelyn stood in the center of a battle she never wanted, but had prepared herself to face. She had started this journey as someone trying to escape. Now she was the person everyone was fighting to reach. As the final battle began and the last secrets came to light, everyone believed the truth had finally been revealed. But one final hidden truth remained in the shadows, waiting to change Evelyn's destiny forever. Evelyn Hart had entered the battle believing she was fighting for survival. But by the time the final confrontation arrived, she understood that she was fighting for something far greater: the right to own her own life. The woman who once feared every decision, every shadow, and every unknown face was now standing in front of the same people who had tried to control her. She was no longer the frightened wife who escaped in the middle of the night. She was the person who exposed the truth. The final conflict between Marcus Vale's enemies and Adrian Cross's organization brought years of hidden secrets into the open. The empire Marcus built through manipulation began collapsing when the evidence of his betrayal and criminal connections became impossible to hide. For the first time, the powerful man who controlled everyone around him had no control left. Marcus lost the influence he depended on. The alliances he created through fear disappeared when people realized his loyalty existed only when it benefited him. The man who spent years making others feel powerless finally faced the consequences of his own actions. But Evelyn's victory was not about revenge. It was about freedom. She had spent so much of her life proving that she could survive that she almost forgot she deserved to live. The greatest battle was not against Marcus or the Mafia world. It was against a version of herself that believed she was powerless. Adrian Cross and the people around him also faced the consequences of the war. Some remained loyal, while others disappeared when their true intentions were revealed. The world they built through secrets and alliances changed forever because one woman refused to remain silent. Evelyn walked away from that world carrying scars, memories, and lessons she would never forget. But she also carried something more valuable: a sense of identity. She no longer defined herself by the marriage she escaped or the dangers she survived. She was not simply Marcus Vale's wife, a target of the Mafia, or a woman caught in someone else's conflict. She was Evelyn Hart, a woman who discovered her strength when everything around her tried to destroy it. In the years that followed, she rebuilt her life slowly. She created a future based on her own choices rather than someone else's control. The fear that once followed her became a reminder of how far she had come. Her story became proof that sometimes survival is not about escaping a difficult situation. Sometimes survival means becoming someone who can never be controlled again. People remembered Evelyn for many reasons. Some remembered the woman who disappeared on a train. Others remembered the woman who challenged powerful enemies and survived a world built on fear. But those who truly understood her journey knew the truth. Her greatest victory was never defeating her enemies. It was finding herself. Years later, people still told the story of the woman who escaped a broken marriage and walked into the Mafia's world. Because her story was never about running away. It was about becoming unstoppable.